Hi everyone, welcome to this tutorial video about preprocessor directives. In this video, we will learn first, what are preprocessor directives, second, what its purpose, third, and by the end of the lecture session, you'll be able to understand why it's easy to use and able to do an activity I prepared for you after this whole tutorial video. Fourth, and later in our demonstration session, it will be shown how some of the preprocessor directives works. Fifth, how to avoid the common mistakes when coding. And sixth, lastly, in our last session will be the recap or key points from our lecture session and demonstration session. So this video is divided into three parts: lecture session, demonstration session, and recap or the key points to take for this tutorial video. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So first, we must understand what are preprocessor directives. Well, this is a program that processes the source code before the actual compilation begins. This commands to instruct the preprocessor to perform specific actions. And these directives must always start with a hashtag symbol. You may ask, why preprocessor directives must always start with the symbol hashtag? Well, that's because if the hashtag symbol is not present in that preprocessor code, the compiler will not recognize that preprocessor, and instead it will treat only as a regular code and may cause errors to your program. This also means that without the preprocessor directives, there will be an instances where a certain action will not occur, like printf for printing your comment or defining a certain macro. And here are the preprocessor directive codes. Hashtag define, used to define a macro. Hashtag undef, used to undefine a macro. Hashtag include, used to include a file in the source code program. If used to include a section of code if a certain macro is defined by hashtag define. Hashtag if and def used to include a section of code if a certain macro is not defined by hashtag define. Hashtag if check for checks for the specified condition. Hashtag else alternate code that executes when hashtag if fails. Hashtag end if u- used to mark the end of hashtag if def, and hashtag if and def. Hashtag error used to generate a compilation error message. Hashtag line used to modify line number and file name information. Hashtag pragma once to make sure the header is included only once. And hashtag pragma message used for displaying a message during compilation. And here are some the key purposes why it's important to use. First, to insert the contents of another libraries. Second, it creates symbol constants or short replacements. Third, it allows you to compile certain parts of the code only if conditions are met. And lastly, it helps organize your program before it is compiled, reuse, and control your code easily. And this is also the reason why it's easy to use, because you just need to the conditions you put in your code. And now, we are here in our demonstration session. Here, I will show you some common mistakes when coding and how to at least reduce to fall to that common pitfalls. So, let's run this broken code first, and and as we can see, there is too many errors. And now let's fix it. And now let's check if the code is now fixed. And here we are. So the mistakes we found here is that in here, in here, there is no, the parenthesis is missing. The version is not defined yet. So it means that it was not defined the version because it's undefined here. Here in else defined, as you can see before, the macro is coded mod instead of mode. Here in define app name, it misses the quotes. Here, it misses the semicolon. And here in double area, the same the parentheses and semicolons are missing. Same as here in printf area and here in return 0. So always remember when coding, always double check your code so so that your program will run smoothly and will not cause any errors. Because if these simple codes are missing in your program, it absolutely gonna it absolutely gonna present you a error on your program. And now, for our last session for this tutorial, let's take a recap from lecture session to demonstration session. Here are the key points I hope you take for this tutorial. Always remember that preprocessor directives process the source code before the actual compilation begins. Second, preprocessor directives always must start in hashtag symbol. When coding, always double check the simple codes like semicolons, parentheses, quotes, and check the macro inputted so the program will run smoothly and will not give any errors to your program. And lastly, I highly encourage you to study the C programming language and always take a practice to have knowledge and skills when using C language. And now I highly encourage you to answer this exercise I prepared for you. And now, if you found this video helpful to you, please consider a like, share, and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials.